Hi, this is David from Wilderside. Welcome to the channel. Today, this video is about demonstrating how I'm going to mount a Freedom Launcher onto this NuCanoe Frontier 12. I've had the opportunity to do Freedom Launcher installs on about a half a dozen kayaks. So I've learned a few lessons, and I think you'll be able to take advantage of some of them as I move forward. What does a Freedom Launcher look like when you take it out of the box? So it usually comes, if you buy the standard version, in 7 parts. You're going to get an information packet which has your specific bill of materials for your serial number and a basic assembly and installation manual. You're going to have two C-Tug wheels with special Wilderside hubs and our 5/8 stainless steel axle included. There's going to be a small parts combo kit that every single Freedom Launcher has. It's got all of the common parts, and we make it somewhat unique by either coming in powder coat black or anodized, and then a choice of one of 3 different colors for accent trim. And then there's the mounting group. Finally, you've got, in this case, 8-degree legs left and right, and an 8-degree crossbar. So I'm going to be prepping for this install by removing some of the components from these kits and grouping all the hardware together in small bins. It just makes it a lot easier to access. And when I catch you next time, I will have prepped and prepared for the install. A Frontier 12, we're going to go ahead and document an install of a Freedom Launcher on this thing. It's up on a stand and strapped down. We got the back end wide open. And so all I've done is taken out the kit and laid it out with my tools, so I'm ready to go. You'll notice some of these parts don't look new. They actually are not new. I actually disassembled a Freedom Launcher that was installed on this unit for this video. The one thing I do have which is new is the crossbar, because I'll be demonstrating how I'm going to be finishing the crossbar using my drill and my jigsaw that I'll get in a moment. And so my goal for this particular video is to perform this install in under 2.5 hours of total elapsed time. I'm going to start the clock over here in a moment. Once I begin, I've got to gather a few more tools. If you have an unlimited or a U10, you're going to see almost identical install times if you follow my procedures. We'll come back in just a moment to get started. Okay, I'm back with the jigsaw. I did not need that for the disinstallation, and so here we go. I'm going to go ahead and start the timer and let that baby run, and we're off to the races with this particular install. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be assembling the handle kits. The handles, the information is in this document here, but I think I'm going to be able to do this from memory. You're grabbing the 5/16 bolt. And just one thing to note, this will be the left-handed handle. The handle goes behind the leg, and I want the heads of the hardware being on the outside to have less interference with fishing line. So I'm putting a washer on each end of this, and then the 5/16 lock nut. I got all the handle hardware kit nicely contained in this little tray, so everything's easily accessible. This hardware's already been broken in, but I'd recommend you consider, because stainless sometimes does gall. I like to use Lanacoat only because it's less messy than, say, like anti-seize, which can kind of get all over everything. Just a little bit of lubrication to try to prevent stainless galling. And you'll need a 1/2-inch socket for this. Now there's a lock nut, so you don't have to have this super tight. I'm going to go ahead and assemble the other handle. Put the head of the bolt towards the outside, work my way inside. Sometimes the very start of the threads can be really tight. Get a washer and another bolt. So one more washer and 5/16 lock nut there. Okay, so we have both our handles made, and we have the hardware on the opposite ends. And now we're going to be installing the springs. These keep the locking pin engaged. They also have a sleeve here, just to keep fishing line from tangling up in the spring. So just grab that small regular washer, and the spring goes in the pocket. Sorry, backwards. The spring goes in the taper. Sorry, the screw goes into the taper. Spring goes into the pocket, and then look for the smallest lock nuts, the 1024s. This does not have to be tight. You just want to basically allow the spring to have some natural tension. 3/8 drive, socket drive, and a regular screwdriver is all you need for this. I'm going to actually turn that around. There's an orientation where the spring is fatter and wraps wider around one end than the other. You want the side with more openness to be towards the nut, so that pull the spring. Pull the spring so that it slides on top of the nut. And you go ahead and tighten it without impinging upon the spring. Really, that's about all you really want. Just get it so that you're engaged into the lock nut, and that spring is free to rotate in the pocket. That actually was a lot futzier than I'm used to, but I'm glad that I could demonstrate for you some of the tricks to getting it just so. Again, there's a goes like so. Doing this left-handed is a little awkward, but all right, there we go. So now this is the left because the handle is on the top. Heads are to the left, and look and see where you have a left-handed leg. It's going to be marked on the inside. And this says 8 left. That's at 8 right, so this has got to be 8 left. It's actually been worn off a little bit through use. You're going to want the shorter of the two 5/8 pins, the 3-inch. Go ahead and put it into the top hole. There you go. And secure it with the smaller of the cotter pins. Now, go ahead and stick the tapered washer on the longer of the two 5/16 stainless pins. That goes right through there like so. The other tapered washer goes opposite it with the big ends facing out. Secure that with lock pin. Okay, so we have the handle assembly almost ready to go. Now we're going to attach the spring to the fixed end of the spring. Grab one of your 2-inch by 1/4 hardware and just stretch the string until you can get it like so. All you're going to have left should be the 1/4-inch lock nut. And all you want to do is just again tighten it until it's fully engaged. And we have a leg assembly. I'm going to go ahead and put the pin in there. We're going to call that good. You know what? I've got these pin heads in the wrong position. I want all the heads on one side. So go ahead and turn that around. All right. Now, one thing you can do to avoid what I just did is to go ahead and put everything together before you're there and make sure the heads of all the hardware are on the one side that you prefer. Here you go. And this goes in like so. pin there. This is the other leg. This says 8 right. So we're going to go ahead and put the 8 right handle on the 8 right leg. Here we go. Just have to take a peek and see what's happening there. All right. And then we take our 2" by 1/4 and put it in the lower spring hole. Grab the 1/4" lock nut. And there we go. So we have 2 handle assemblies all ready to go. I'm going to set those aside. Now I'm going to do, oops, forgot the leg pivot pin. All right, so that tray is empty. Got everything done there. Thank you, neighbors, for chopping your trees down tonight. Sorry for the distraction. We're going to keep plowing forward. Next thing I'm going to do is, so that's got 14 minutes. It's even got a bit of a screw up. And we're on to the axle kit. This is going to be a fairly simple job. We're going to put the axle lock onto the axle, pick the smaller of the 2 holes, put the axle lock in so that the U is facing down the shaft. Then grab the 1024 hardware and the lock nut. And go ahead and secure that in place. All right. So that's what an axle assembly is going to look like with a wheel in between. We got that together. We'll put it by the wheel and we'll do a second one just like the first one. There's no orientation. These are universal left-right. Just make sure you put this in the smaller of the 2 axle holes and you'll be golden. Okay, we've got our axle assembly put together. And we're sitting at 16 minutes. Okay, things that I'm done with. I'm gonna go ahead and put in the box. So the next thing I'm going to do now is we have the legs ready to be installed. We've got the wheels and axles ready to go. So now it's time to turn our attention to the mounting group. And for this particular task, the mounting group is going to be put together in a stack. Left and right is the same. I'm looking for my hardware. Here it is. I'm going to get the hardware out, put it in a bag. So the stack is going to look something like this. For this particular one, I'm going to start with 2 washers. Can always get rid of one. Grab the 2-inch socket head bolts. Put it in like so. So then I'm going to put 1 washer on the end of the long bolts. Slide them in from the bottom into the bottom pocket on the long piece. Now I need these. This is the only difference is the F12 needs an extra inch of spacer, so I've got these round spacers. For the U10, you'll just eliminate adding that to the stack. And then we're going to grab the Gorilla brackets and slide them on like so. Get out my 7/16 drive. Go ahead and tighten up the stack on each side. I just remembered I forgot to get a 3/16 Allen key to tighten these socket bolts, so I'll be right back to get that. I'm going to try just 1 washer. It just feels like maybe it would catch the track nut better. Now, do I bottom out? I do bottom out, so I checked to see if it would bottom out, and I'm going to go ahead and put that second washer back on. not bottom out now. Now I'm going to go ahead and put some blue Loctite right in the center of those threads. All right. Get the front one started. Well, that actually went together very nicely, and I'm going to slide this forward until I hit the screw, and which seems okay. So it was actually quite easy to align the track nut with the screw. I tested to see if I would bottom out the track, and I did with only one washer, so I'm using 2 washers. 2 washers are provided in the kit because you don't want to bottom out the screw on the bottom of the track, but you do want to tighten it up to be snug against the track nut. It doesn't have to be super tight as long as the Loctite does its job. So, in a matter of just a minute or two, we've got one side done. We'll go ahead and assemble the second mounting group and attach it to the left side. Okay, so the pocket goes towards the bottom. The second spacer, the pocket goes towards the top and on the outside. Just to hold things together, found out I do need 2 washers. Go ahead and put the stack together. Have the bulging side towards the bottom on the track nut. Okay, now I'm going to assemble the stack. I need these extra 1-inch spacers for the F12. 1 washer on the bottom, and go ahead and get the long assembly bolts put together. I'd recommend you take it slow. If you do use a power tool, just to try to avoid galling of the stainless steel. So we'll go ahead and get the second mounting group installed. I've never used these particular style bolts and track nuts before, and I'm amazed at how easy it seems that the bolts find the nut as long as you get it close. I'm going to go ahead and just give it a little touch, but again, you don't need to torque this down super tight because the plastic will flex a little bit. I just want a nice snug fit. And with that, we have completed the first part of the mount, and we're sitting at 31 minutes, and I'm feeling really good about this job. Okay, so the next stage of the job, and I'm going to want to go, I forgot to grab my wood clamps for this, so I'm going to go ahead and grab those and be back shortly. Okay, it's time to turn the kayak angle, or the camera angle. All right, so I'm going to be, on this particular one, I'm going to choose to put the finished end of the crossbar on the left, and then machine the right in front of you out here in the field. I'm just removing the protective wrap on the crossbar group. It comes with some tooling as well as the opposite end cap. The crossbars come with plenty of excess material so that it will fit a wide variety of kayaks that pick a particular leg sweep angle. And you can just slide this off as you choose. Beware that the powder coat can scratch. I'm going to go ahead and remove this tie wrap. It's there to ensure that the end cap doesn't fall off when the assembly bolts are not in it holding them together. Now it says front, so I want to slide it in so that it is like so. And now what I'd like to do is install the left-hand freedom bracket so I get the spacing side to side right and the leg can sweep appropriately. I'm going to go ahead and take the tape off. Go ahead and put that bolt on. There may be you'll need to either machine that out or just move the insert a little bit, because there's some clearance in there. I'm going to see if I can scoot it back. You may just need to remount that hole with a 5/16 Brit. Because of the stack up tolerances between the insert and the bar. There we go. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and put a washer, a lock washer, and a nut on the bottom ends of this 5/16 hardware. And that will be, since we're doing this in the field, we won't have to take these off again. I may not torque them to final torque just yet, but at least the assembly will be together. Now what we can do is install the left leg. We know that because the hardware's on the outside. Remove the leg pivot pin, slide it in like so. I know the crossbar is just flopping around, and that's okay for now. We have a leg installed on the left-hand side. And now we're going to install the wheel. That's one of the reasons we did the leg assembly so early. We just want to make sure that there's room for the leg and the leg assembly to clear the hole. While at the same time having a pretty nice tight fit. I'm just going to push down like so and sweep it. I like to see about an inch of clearance here just to be safe. I'm putting my finger in between, and I like that right there. And so I have a piece of masking tape, and I'm going to basically say that that tape lines up with the Gorilla bracket and says, this is where I want the crossbar. Right there. That gives me clearance. No problems. Just like so. So, alright. Now, the wheel's done its job, at least temporarily. I'm going to remove the wheel and the leg assembly while I finish installing and machining the crossbar. Machining as in we're going to drill 6 holes and cut the end. And take out the leg. Pop out that pin, slide it out, and the leg comes out just like that. Okay. So I want those 2 clamps. What I'm going to do is go ahead and clamp up the crossbar so that I'm ready to drill the 4 holes that sandwich that crossbar right where it needs to be. And I want the crossbar to be appropriately spaced left to right. The tape tells me that, as well as I want the crossbar to be centered between these 2 slots so that it's pretty well centered forward and aft. You can see maybe that looks pretty good. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you really want these bolts to be not right on the edge of the material, but in the center of the face there. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. Here I can really just focus on front to back centering. Keep one hole exposed. So what we're going to be doing is drilling a hole and then putting a bolt in it just to keep it located. And we're drilling 4 holes corresponding to the 4 slots in the gorilla bracket so that we basically bolt a rigid assembly between these 2 mounts and the crossbar. I'm going to go ahead and just make sure there's room for the drill. Center this one last time. All right. Go ahead and get my little vacuum to clean things up. Okay, that'll hold that position. Now I'm going to go over and do it on the other side. thing I forgot was to put on my safety glasses. I'd recommend you do that for this operation especially. Maybe even some gloves, because those shards of aluminum, if you touch them, they'll bite into you pretty good. So. All right. Throw a washer on the end of your 3-inch bolt, slide it in there. It's like I might have a little bit of a hanging chad there. Actually now, I'd recommend go ahead and putting Alright, take off the gloves. Putting some hardware washer first, then the lock washer, then the nut. So that you can count on your bolted joint holding position. Of the first holes you've drilled, and then you can just get rid of the clamps because that's going to stay where you've put it. Alright. Those clamps have done their job. Go ahead and drill the second hole. On that side, the third and the fourth hole. Alright. Alright. So, the rest of this hardware put together. Last bolt for the crossbar mounting bolts. Right. So now we have the crossbar mounted. I might go ahead and check those bolts and give them just a little bit of a snug, but keep in mind this tube is hollow right here, so you do not want to use any sort of torque spec on these bolts. Just comfortably snug will be good enough. So now what we want to do is replicate this measurement here from the edge of the outside of the gorilla bracket to the end of the tube, not counting this end cap, and measure that same distance on the other side. And that is how we're going to make this symmetrical. So let's go and get our tape measure. And go ahead and measure that distance just up against there. It is exactly 10 1/4 inches from the outside to the end of the tube. 10 1/4. That is on the front. The tube is now about 13 1/4, so we'll be taking off about 3 inches. Let's see if I do that about right. And there it is. There's my marker, it's buried. There's 10 1/4, and I'm going to make it a little bit wider just because, for safety's sake. All right. Measure twice, cut once. This is going to be a big cut, so I'll measure one more time. From the outside of the gorilla bracket to the end of the tube is 10 1/4. And that is 10 1/4. So now I need an 8-degree line. I get that by using this tooling. You can tell this tooling is 8-degree because of the marks on the tooling. You can see the big mark is a 5, each little one's is 1, so 5 plus 3 is 8. It's sort of a modified Roman numeral marking. And what we're doing is using this tooling to make an 8-degree edge and line that we're going to cut with a jigsaw. This doesn't have to be exact because this tooling is going to make the holes perfect. So this just has to be approximately right. There we go. There is our 8-degree line. Now, for simplicity's sake, I'm going to drill a hole right in the middle so that I've got room to start the jigsaw cut in the middle, and I'm going to work out from both sides. It will be a cosmetic dimple. It won't matter at all from a functionality standpoint, and just as a way to make this easy, that's how I like to use the jigsaw method. So I'm just going to go ahead and not worried about even marking it, just approximately in the middle, doesn't matter. That is a starter hole for the jigsaw. Now, aluminum is a lot softer than steel. I'm using a 10 tooth per inch wood bit on this. I just find they work pretty well. And just follow the line the best you can. Don't worry about a perfect cut. It took about 15 seconds to get through half of it. All right, so we've cut off and we're done with the jigsaw. We've cut off the end of the aluminum. That's about how much you had extra that was unnecessary, but again, this goes on a plethora of different boats, so I'm gonna go ahead and suck out the tube a bit. All right, so I'm going to get rid of this tape now. It's done its job. I have a little deburring tool that I like to use after I've made a cut. It really works better on the inside, but I'm going to try to mess with the outside a little bit too. Just take the worst of the edge off. All right. Okay. Now, the tooling that I was talking about, this is where it really comes in, is this tooling slides onto the end of the tube, and it has these two precision holes that match up with the freedom bracket to give you both the right spacing and the right angle. So just go ahead and slip it on, make sure it goes to the very end of the tube. I like to just make sure it doesn't go anywhere by clamping it. Look down to make sure that the tube is where it needs to be. Again, your 5/16 bit is your friend. Go ahead and sometimes, I may be paranoid, but sometimes I like to just throw a 5/16 bolt in that hole just to double make sure that nothing walks while I'm drilling that second hole. All right, I'm gonna do a little cleanup. Okay, that is the big job done. Getting that crossbar mounted and exactly the way you like it is a big deal. And the tooling is what really saves the day and makes this job quite possible and doable. I'll go ahead and spur that a little bit. I see I've got some shavings on the inside of the tube I'd like to get out. Awesome. Okay, the last step, very critical, make sure that the white insert is centered in the end cap, and then all you do is tap this in. Sometimes the tube can actually be a little undersized. You may need to take something like the end of a screwdriver and just encourage it to go on. I should have had a rubber mallet, but you improvise, right? Okay, that's on. It looks like I won't have any problem, but I'm going to go ahead and just remount those holes just to be sure. There's no inserts hanging things up. And now it's time to install the right freedom bracket. These are 1 3/4 bolts. Just like that, they fit perfectly. I knew I'd lost the lock washer. There it is. Notice I put the logos go on the outside. That's how I prefer to do it. I'll go ahead and get initially these bolts sort of finger tight. So you can see that we now have both freedom brackets on. They've got the 8-degree tilt. There is the left side and the right side. And just for curiosity, I've had to run to the garage 3 times. I have not stopped the timer. We're at 1 hour and 7 minutes, guys. We're going to be blowing my target way out of the water. 18 foot-pounds of torque for these bolts, just these bolts that hold the freedom bracket together. That's all. Okay, that's one side done. That's the second side done. I'm going to go ahead and tighten these bolts. And again, don't use a torque wrench, just until I'm using about all right. Okay, those are done. So we have essentially completed the install of a Freedom launcher on a Frontier 12, all while we're out here in God's green creation, enjoying nature and everything else. All I have to do is install the legs. I start from the front, I slide it back, and I make sure the spring is on the top of the leg as I'm sliding it in. I start from the pin on the outside, work it to the end. And the legs go on, or the wheels go on simply by sliding the axle from the inside out, putting the spacer, ugly side in, and the legs go on. All right. Very good, gang. Well, listen. This Freedom launch, I can't believe it. I set a goal of 2.5 hours. It is 1 hour, 11 minutes, and 40 seconds. I've got some tools to clean up, but the wheels are on, and I'm going to demonstrate how this baby works on this Frontier 12 All I'm going to do is take my drills out of here, my tools out of here. Put my iPad over here so it's not in the way. I like to use this as a tow rope. When I have motorized intentions to pull folks with. I'm going to go ahead and vacuum up a little bit. I got a piece of masking tape over here that can come off. All right. Okay. Legs down. What do you think? Is it going to work? I think so. I think so. I think it's going to work just fine. Here we go, gang. I'm going to go ahead and slide our kayak stand out of the way. So you can take a look at the Freedom Launcher that we just installed in 1 hour and 15 minutes while you were enjoying your cup of tea. Well, this is David from Wilderside. We have just completed the installation of a Freedom Launcher designed, manufactured for this NuCanoe Frontier 12. We were out here in God's green creation using simply hand tools like a jigsaw and a drill. And we were able to accomplish this feat in under 2.5 hours. In fact, I did it in half the time I thought it would. We accomplished this in 1 hour and 15 minutes. Now, it says now 1 hour and 16. This went together splendidly well. I know there's some of you out there that think this is an overly complicated build, and I just want to ask you, do you really think it was that tough? I don't think so. I mean, I'm not a professional machinist, right? I just use hand tools just like you saw, and it went together very, very well. And the legs and the wheels look perfectly straight when they're down. Take a look at that. The wheels are down, looking straight, which is great. On both sides, with that 8-degree angle of the freedom bracket. It's a bare boat. I have a couple different motor solutions I've actually used with this. Little secret, I've actually developed a transom solution for this particular boat. I use a special crossbar that's a little wider. I'm just super pumped, guys. I am super excited. This went together super, super well. I actually wrap a rope around the back half of the one side of the Freedom mount for the Frontier 12, and I was towing a floaty with 2 kids and an adult and a 55-pound thrust motor. Just saying, that mount is pretty stout, and I'm confident that is going to go many, many miles. I did a mud flat launch with it, And so I'm just going to do a lap in the parking lot, have fun a little bit with this Freedom launcher. You can take a look at it rolling back there. There we have it. Well, this is going to be a wrap. Until next time, stay safe. Tight lines, y'all.